All right, we're on. Here we go. Welcome to episode 1 of the new Explore Inspired show. I'm your host, Jonathan Ronzio. I am stoked to be starting this up. Basically, it's the evolution of the blog. We're still doing the blog, but now we're adding a layer of this show on top of it that we're doing every single week, and I'm going to stick to that. That's been something that I've struggled with in the past, is regular episodic content, and by doing this, I'm putting it out there in the universe to you. We're doing the show every week. What to expect from this show? Well, basically it's the same stuff that you would find on Explore Inspired, but let's go a little deeper. We're going to be covering adventure travel, mountain sports, conservation, inspiration, you name it. I mean, it's just basically, it's like travel, it's confidence, it's life lessons and advice and amazing people doing amazing things and businesses and travel hacks and volunteering abroad or dog rescue stories. We're covering all that stuff. But today, we're talking about a life lesson. Because today, couldn't be more relevant. We're talking about self-imposed deadlines. This show right here, this one that we're recording right now, would not be a thing if I didn't give myself a deadline. I have been talking about doing this for months. I've literally had these lights and this camera set up and this set built, for the last month. And I have not hit record because I've been nervous. I didn't know what the first episode was going to be. I have probably 30 ideas listed out for episode topics on a Trello board, but I was scared to pick the first one to talk about. And it wasn't until I asked my wife, I was like, take a look at these. What should I do? What's the first one? She was like, self-imposed deadlines because you need to start this. And she's right. This was the week that I said I was going to start it. So you can see right over here, I made this whole calendar on this whiteboard and put, color categorized stickies to show me when I'm going to do a gear review, when I'm going to do the Explore Inspired show, when I'm going to do a newsletter, when I'm going to just write a regular blog post or do a guest blog. I got it all there, scheduled out to hold myself to it for starting the month of April. Because staying regular with the stuff that I've put out has been a problem. And what I've learned is that whether it's business or bowel movements, regularity is crucial to success. So let's get right into it. So deadlines. For school, for work, you take them super seriously. You're going to pull an all-nighter in the library to get that term paper done and passed in. Or you are going to work your ass off behind that desk all week long, if not all night long the night before, to get whatever to your boss needs to get to your boss or the client. Why don't you take yourself seriously? When you impose a deadline on yourself for something that you want to do, maybe it's paid, maybe it's not, but it's a project that is not directly related to school or work, why do you so often push that off? Why do I push that off? I mean, it's so easy to just find other things to do, to get lost in Instagram or Facebook world and distracted by other things. I'm like so many other people out there and entrepreneurs, like squirrel syndrome, shiny object syndrome. I'm constantly the dog chasing the car or the ball down the street, and until he sees a stick, until he sees a treat, everything ever is my favorite thing. And that's always what I want to do. And so when it comes to focus on one singular thing, especially if it's a self-assigned singular thing, why don't I take myself seriously? And I'm sure you're the same way. We'd say, I'm going to do this by then. But by putting I'm going to do this is just ambiguous. By then is the important part. And it's often more effective to talk in short term or in days. Like if you're talking 3 months versus 90 days. 90 days sounds faster. I guess the analogy I could talk about is like bungee jumping versus skydiving. 3, 2, 1. Both are awesome. Both people are many people are afraid of, and jumping out of a plane versus jumping off of a bridge. They're kind of similar, but very different things, and here's why. Jumping out of a plane, you're so high away from the ground that, at least for me, it looks so picturesque, and you're so far away that you don't see the immediate consequence. You're just in the plane, and you're falling out, and you're free falling, and it's great, and you don't see the ground getting closer. It's still so far that you don't literally see yourself hitting getting close to hitting the ground, because that chute pulls when you're still thousands of feet in the air, and then you kind of coast down, and it's great. If you haven't been skydiving, do it. But bungee jumping is so different. It's the same, feeling of free fall, but the ground is right there. So it's so much scarier. There's no ambiguity to how long you're falling or anything. It's like as soon as you leave that platform or that bridge, and you are on your way to that ground. Like when I went in New Zealand, I did the Nevis Bridge, or not the Nevis Bridge, the Nevis Gorge, and it's like a 9-second free fall. I've never screamed louder in my life, because the entire time those rocks are just getting closer, and you're close enough from where you leave the platform to realize that, to be scared of that. And so I guess in a long roundabout way, that analogy is like deadlines. Like if you give yourself a very, far ambiguous deadline, like you're like, it's something on your bucket list that you haven't necessarily assigned a timeline to, it's just something you want to do eventually, you're less likely to get it done because it's not scaring you to not get it done. You're not feeling that stress, that fear of like, oh man, I maybe this isn't going to happen if I don't take action on it. Whereas setting a deadline that's like 30 days, 90 days, 7 days, tomorrow, it's more like bungee jumping in the sense that you are quickly approaching that deadline, those rocks. You are almost gonna smack it, and you need to work. You need to figure out how to not die, right? Granted, whatever you're probably giving yourself as a self-imposed deadline, like me starting this show, the consequence is not death. But I still think that's a kind of a cool analogy, which is, it really is the difference between seeing something far away versus seeing it coming right at you. Like I showed you, had this calendar. I said I was going to do this show this week, finally get episode 1 done, and here we are. And thank you so much for tuning in. The moral of this little roundabout story is take yourself seriously, just like you would school, work, your boss, whatever. Like, take your deadline as serious as you would anything else, and give yourself something scary, something that's more pressing to be actionable on, rather than just I'm going to do that eventually. So the next part about being successful with self-imposed deadlines is planning. Once you've actually set, okay, this is when it's got to get done by, like that's your first super important part. When you know what you're doing, I guess that's preliminary. You got to know what you're doing, and then you set the time you have to get it done by. But then to bridge that gap, in order to actually do it, you got to get to planning. And planning can be like the hardest part, really. That can be the most daunting, getting up to being comfortable enough, confident enough to do it. Hint, you're never gonna be. I'm totally don't know what I'm talking about right now, and I'm totally nervous right here. But you're never ready, and you just got to do it. But planning is crucial, and you have to give yourself mini milestones, actionable steps. If you're climbing the mountain, you need base camps. You need cash and carries along the way. You need little steps you can take, or a rest at each pitch of the climb, to give yourself the breath and the momentum to keep going. Like you're stoked that you got to that camp or completed that pitch, and you have a mini celebration, whether it's with your partner or your friends or just yourself. Like you celebrate your success at small steps along the way in order to climb to get to the top. And that's how you succeed with self-imposed deadlines, is you give yourself many little milestones to celebrate, or just be stoked about. And you know that those are steps you need to take to get to launching the thing. So like for this show right now, I knew that I had already built the gear wall. That was like a year ago, but I thought it'd be a cool set. So that was already done. And then I decided I was going to do it here. But then I looked into, the right lighting and the right shotgun mic and the right lens. And once I started some things I had, some things I had to get. But once I knew the steps. I knew the gear, the things that I needed in order to be successful hitting record right now and doing this. Like each step along the way, I set up the lights and I was like, this looks amazing. And I tested the shot, and you might have seen it on Instagram when I was like kind of just playing around, grabbing some stuff off the shelf back there and showing the camera, just basically to see how the framing and the exposure looked with the lighting, and then testing the audio with the shotgun mic on top of the camera. Like doing those things got me excited along the way to keep checking off the boxes of like, okay, I got this, I got this, I got this, until I got to the point in the last 2 weeks where I was just like, okay, I could launch this show right now, but I'm scared. And then I had to give myself the kick in the butt and actually say, it's got to be this day. That's when you're filming. That's when you're editing and publishing. So you end up doing that. But planning and those mini celebrations, those mini milestones along the way, so important. The next crazy important piece of self-imposed deadlines is creating accountability. Whether like that's to yourself by virtue of telling others, and you don't want to come off as someone who doesn't follow through on your plans or is a liar or whatever, like, or if it's literally you're accountable to somebody else to following through. It's so important to have accountability partners in your life, in your business, and I recommend you seek them out. If you don't, feel free to shoot me a message on Instagram or my email or whatever. Like let's chat. But accountability is so crucial to getting things done, because if you're not accountable to anything, you're just gonna keep putting things off. You're gonna keep procrastinating because what does it matter? No one's expecting it. Like this show, no one's expecting it to be published. No one's like sitting there waiting at their computer like, oh my god, I can't wait until the Explore Inspired show publishes. No, but I created accountability for myself, like self-awareness, by talking about it online. I was on Facebook, I was on Instagram, I was talking about this show, I was doing stories, teasing the show with the set and everything. And so by doing that, I knew like I have to put this out there. At some point, I'm gonna have to follow through and do this show. I have to get it done. So accountability is huge, and if you have the motivation and the self-discipline to create accountability for yourself, it's a lot of 4 selves here, right? Self deadline, self discipline, self accountability, but it really is an amazing practice of self control to do all that. But if you need somebody, just ask your best friend, ask your wife, your girlfriend, who like your mom. Ask somebody to get involved in what you're trying to create, what you're trying to build or grow or do, so that you have some external voice waiting, helping, asking, so it doesn't just keep getting pushed off. And lastly, be sure to dangle a carrot right at the end of whatever your deadline is. Like give yourself some reward at the end. And like tonight I'm doing this show, and then my wife and I are going out bowling because we're married, and that's what you do on a Thursday is you go bowl, and it's super fun. Honestly, we love bowling, and it's going to be a blast. But no, it's like just give yourself something to look forward to after you get something done. Like make it a if this, then that situation, so that you have to do something. You have to get that project done, send that email, publish that blog, write that chapter of that book, call that client, close that deal, ask out that girl or guy or whatever it is. Like give yourself a reason to celebrate on the other side of kicking yourself in the butt to do what you have to do. That is a wrap on Explore Inspired Show episode 1, all about succeeding with self-imposed deadlines. Thank you so much for tuning in. This was really scary and fun for me to get in front of the camera and get this going and do it. And if you're watching right now and you're still watching all the way to the end of this, then thank you so much. Basically, as we go forward with the Explore Inspired Show, as I said at the beginning, I'm going to be talking about topics like this, where it might just be me and the camera, kind of, or not the camera, it's me and you. It's me and you right now. So, but it might just be like this kind of shot the whole time, where I'm just sharing a lesson, actionable, helpful, about life, business, travel, whatever. And there also might be some times where I'm talking about mountaineering or backpacking and adventure travel and splicing in stories like if I'm going to talk about probably climbing Aconcagua and Denali and Kilimanjaro and I will cut in clips from those adventures and some of these are going to get pretty rad as we build the adventure into the narrative here. But for just getting going, I just wanted it to be me and you, and a very relevant lesson to how I had to light a fire under my own butt to even share this right now. So thanks again. Please stay tuned for the following weeks. Subscribe to the Explore Inspired newsletter. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our Facebook. Or you don't need to subscribe on Facebook. It's like just like the page, right? So I love that you're a part of this journey with me. You can connect with me at Explore Inspired, at Jonathan Ronzio, and thank you again. This has been a blast.